15,000 enemy targets have been struck. Fighters and bombers all day picking targets as they choose. Their missile volume is down 90%. And as the world is seeing, they are exercising sheer desperation of Hormuz.
The first contact came at 0340 local time. An Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy fast attack craft had crossed the exclusion corridor established around the USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Group and was accelerating toward the formation at an estimated 30 knots. The MH-60R Seahawk helicopter crew, already airborne on maritime patrol, had the contact on their AN/APS-153 multi-mode radar at 4 nautical miles and an infrared lock on the vessel's engine signature. Twin outboard motors running at full throttle, thermal bloom clearly distinct from the ambient sea surface temperature on the FLIR display. The co-pilot called the contact. The pilot closed to engagement range. The engagement lasted less than 90 seconds. That was the opening move of a 48-hour battle that would see 16 Iranian naval vessels removed from the operational picture entirely. 2 mine-laying ships and 14 fast attack craft that had been tasked with contesting CENTCOM's control of the Strait of Hormuz. This is what freedom of navigation looks like when it has to be enforced by force. The MH-60R Seahawk is not a frontline strike aircraft. It is an anti-submarine and surface warfare helicopter, but its weapons loadout for this mission made the distinction irrelevant. Each helicopter carried AGM-1-14 Hellfire-2 air-to-surface missiles on its stub wing pylons, a crew-served .50 caliber M3M machine gun mounted on a pintle in the cabin doorway, and the full sensor suite active. AN/APS-153 maritime search radar sweeping a 360-degree arc around the aircraft. AN/AQS-22 airborne low-frequency sonar retracted and stowed in the fuselage bay. Forward-looking infrared turrets slaved to the co-pilot's helmet-mounted sight and locked onto the target vessel's thermal signature. Pre-flight, the crew had run the Hellfire missile rail continuity check, electrical connection from the aircraft's stores management system through the umbilical to each missile's guidance section. Verified at the weapons panel, the Hellfire's semi-active laser seeker required the helicopter's AN/AAQ-27 targeting system to maintain a laser spot on the target through the missile's entire flight time, 3 to 5 seconds from release to impact against a surface target at standard engagement range. The crew held the spot, the missile tracked it. Simultaneously, MQ-9 Reaper unmanned aerial vehicles assigned to CENTCOM's maritime surveillance mission were already on station above the strait at altitude, their AN/DAS-1 multi-spectral targeting systems painting a continuous real-time picture of Iranian naval activity across the entire operational area. The MQ-9 operates at altitudes above 25,000 feet, invisible to the naked eye from the surface, inaudible over the ambient noise of open water, carrying a sensor payload that combines electro-optical cameras, infrared imaging, and laser range finding into a single stabilized turret that can track a moving vessel from beyond. Visual range with sufficient resolution to read hull markings. The aircraft's data link transmitted a continuous video feed to the CENTCOM Operations Center, where analysts logged every Iranian vessel that sortied from its anchorage. Each contact was assigned a track number, a vessel classification, and a priority tier before it had traveled 10 nautical miles from port. The targeting geometry was already computed. The element of surprise had been entirely on the American side. On the flight deck of USS Abraham Lincoln, F/A-18E Super Hornets were being turned for follow-on strike sorties throughout the engagement window. The jets had already expended ordnance on the initial strikes against the mine-laying vessels, the priority targets in the Iranian formation, given that a successfully deployed minefield in the Strait Narrows would present a threat requiring weeks of clearance operations to resolve. The mine layers were identified, tracked, and engaged before their crews had completed their deployment runs. A GM-84 Harpoon anti-ship missiles were among the weapons employed, a sea-skimming active radar homing missile that drops to wave-top altitude after launch, activates its own AN/DSQ-28 seeker head at terminal range, and guides itself onto the target vessel's radar cross-section without further input from the launching aircraft. The F/A-18E crew had already turned away and was was aggressing the target area before the Harpoon reached its aim point. Back in the carrier's Combat Direction Center, the tactical picture updated in near real time as each engagement concluded. Track numbers for neutralized vessels were marked closed on the large format display. The running count climbed through the first watch. 4 vessels, then 7, then 11. The Arleigh Burke-class destroyers in the strike group's screen maintained their stations, their AN/SPY-1D radar arrays continuously tracking the remaining Iranian contacts and feeding fire control solutions into the weapons queues. USS Cole and USS Mason each had Mark 41 cells loaded with RIM-66 Standard missiles for air defense and Tomahawk land attack missiles for surface and shore targets. The surface action was being prosecuted primarily by the helicopters and the carrier air wing, and the destroyers held their positions in the screen, their systems tracking, their crews watching the contact count drop. An ordnance crew on the flight deck worked through the 7th aircraft reload of the watch period. The MQ-9 bomb lift truck was positioned under the port wing station of an F/A-18E, a GBU-38 Joint Direct Attack munition, a 500-pound MK-82 warhead fitted with a JDAM guidance tail kit, raised on the hoist arm and maneuvered into alignment with the weapons pylon. The lug hooks engaged with an audible click felt through the loader's gloves. The arming wire was connected and tugged for continuity. The safety pin inserted, flagged red, and serial number logged against the aircraft's tail number on the load crew's documentation sheet. The crew chief signed the load card and handed it to the plane captain. The aircraft was ready. On the deck around them, the smell of JP-5 exhaust from the previous launch cycle had not yet cleared. It never fully did during sustained flight operations. The next pilot was already walking out from the island superstructure, helmet in hand, mission card clipped to his knee board, heading toward the jet without breaking stride. By the end of the 48-hour engagement window, the count stood at 16. 2 mine-laying vessels, the primary threat to strait navigation, had been neutralized in the opening hours. 14 fast attack craft that had sortied in subsequent waves to contest the strike group's position had been engaged by MH-60R helicopters, MQ-9 Reaper strikes, and carrier-based FA-18E sorties across multiple engagement sequences. IRGC Navy forces had attempted to coordinate an attack on the Abraham Lincoln Formation during the second night of operations. The strike group's layered defense, combat air patrol stations maintained by F/A-18Fs, surface search radar coverage from the Arleigh Burke screen, and continuous MH-60R helicopter patrols around the formation perimeter had identified and engaged every inbound contact before it reached weapons release range of CVN-72. The Strait of Hormuz remained open. The mine-laying capability that Tehran had positioned to close it was gone. The fast attack craft inventory that the IRGC Navy had used to harass commercial shipping and contest naval transit for the past decade had been reduced by 14 hulls in 48 hours. CVN-72 had not changed course once during the entire engagement window. Its aircraft had continued cycling through launch and recovery operations on a standard flight deck tempo. Ordnance crews had turned aircraft for the next sortie while the previous engagement was still being logged, and the carrier's nuclear reactors had maintained sustained power output without interruption throughout. CENTCOM's operational summary logged the engagements under a single category: freedom of navigation operations. The paperwork was clinical, the outcome was not.